Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. This is another paid request, this time from Alex. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust. Now, I believe I've seen this film before, because it's a sequel to the original Vampire Hunter D. I believe there's only been two of them, and I do remember liking this more than the first one. Because this one I do think is a bit better animated. This one's actually from the director of Ninja Scroll, which I do like. I'm not a big anime guy, but there's a couple anime films I do enjoy, Akira being one, Ninja Scroll being another, and again, the fact that this is from the director of that is a plus. This came out around 2000. I was always surprised there was never a live-action version of Vampire Hunter D. I guess really, if Blade was white, it would be this guy. Because he's half human, he's half vampire, he hunts vampires down. Only with this one, he'll have this demon thing in his hand that will talk to him. And I recognize the voice from the English dub. The voice of this creature is the guy who played Friar Tuck in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And he's been in a few other films too, but I'm like, I recognize that voice. Oh, it's the guy who helped Kevin Costner in Robin Hood. And he kind of has a smart-ass attitude, and he helps Dee look for clues or things of that nature, helps him out with spells out of shaky situations. The plot of the film is he's hired to find this girl that's been kidnapped. It's this one guy's sister and this other guy's daughter. A vampire took her. He gotta go chase after her. Also, there are other bounty hunters, this group of bounty hunters also chasing the girl for the cash. And that team, you have a guy who's really good at arrows, making the arrows rain down upon vampires or whatever. You have this big guy with a hammer. Kind of reminds me of, granted they were a vampire group, but it reminds me of the group in Blade 2. Because I also had a big guy with a big fuck-off hammer. But yeah, these are humans. And also there's this girl named Layla who's got a gun. There's this frail psychic, but he's bedridden. And when he puts this injection in him, he'll create this astral projection that lasts for only a little bit, because it takes a lot out of him. So that stuff was interesting, and the animation I really enjoyed. I thought the animation was very visually dynamic from the beginning. I mean, the first scene, it's panning across this graveyard of crosses, and across this broken down city where there's crosses everywhere. Like I said, this visually dynamic sequences, it's nice to watch just on a visual level. The English dubbing, I've heard worse, honestly. I've heard worse. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Not many are, but like I said, I've seen worse. And it's got a little bit of blood, but it's not as gory as again, I've seen this, but it's been a long while. It's not as gory as I remember it being. It's not as violent as, say, Ninja Scroll or Akira. Like I said, there's a little bit of blood in there. There's some nice moments, but again, it's not a tremendous blood fest like other anime films. There's no nudity like other anime films have. There's no sex. Because believe me, quite a bit of anime, you'd be surprised how much anime, well, maybe you won't, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. A lot of anime has sex. Or titties. And then you come to find out that there's something up with this girl that went with the vampire, maybe willingly, because they're really in love. And I might have missed some stuff, whether in translation or just because of my own stupidity. But the vampire who's got the girl, and has their own series of bad guys with them. There's one who's a shapeshifter, especially with trees, wood type stuff. There's one who deals in the shadows, pretty much a shadow creature. There's one who is the carriage driver, and he's also a werewolf. But as Dee and these hunters are doing their separate thing, but they're after the goal, they come across this town full of vampires that's been turned. And that's where you see the bounty hunters do their thing. You have this one guy who's got like a spinning blade, and again the guy that makes the sky rain with arrows, all that stuff. And this whole town has been turned. Now later on, they find this vampire who we find out is in love with this girl and vice versa, and he goes, "Leave us to travel in peace." I'm like, travel in peace? You turned a whole fucking town into vampires. It's like, did I miss something? Did someone else turn them into vampires? Were they vampires to begin with? Because it seemed like they passed by in the carriage, and then by the time the bounty hunters got to this town, everybody was a vampire. Till someone asks, "Have they been here?" And they see the guy's bitten. "Yeah, they have. You're lying to us." And it seems like those bad guys turned the whole town of innocent people into vampires, but then it wants to have this like motif about judging people and discrimination, and hey, it's these two people that just are in love with each other. Okay, I did get that part, that the girl actually wants to be with the guy because they're in love, and the vampire has a chance to bite her but doesn't because he's in love with her, and there's a point that he's trying to save her even from the more evil vampire bitch named Carmilla, and that's in the third act, and he actually helps in destroying this Carmilla character. But that doesn't discount the fact that you helped turn an entire town of innocent people into vampires. It's like, why does this get kind of dropped or forgotten in terms of the story? That's why I'm asking legitimately, did I miss something? Was it not them that turned the whole town into vampires? Or was there something lost in translation? What am I missing? Because, yeah, you two wanted to fuck, and okay, you were in love. You still turn a whole innocent town into vampires. You still deserve to die, in my eye. I mean, you could be tissy-faced with this lady, you still murdered a whole town, you still deserve to die. But maybe I forgot something, so that was a bit confusing to me. Again, Alex, who requested this, thank you, Alex. But if you want to explain it to me, feel free. But I will say, it was fun to watch. Sally D doesn't do a whole lot for a while. It doesn't feel like he kicks as much ass as, say, Blade. That's why Blade is, I think, much cooler, because he's much more of an ass kicker. Like, D doesn't kick a whole lot of ass. I mean, he does do a couple things, but I think that could have been done much more exciting. Like, of the group of bad guys, like, the bounty hunters take care of the shadow creature. D seems like he takes care of the shapeshifter, but then Layla kind of finishes her off, but not really, because it's kind of by luck. Because D is off somewhere recuperating. The one bounty hunter lady, Layla, is confronted with this shapeshifter again, but then because Layla threw a knife at her, lightning struck and hit, and luckily hit that bad guy, or this a bad girl, and fried her. So I thought, okay, that was a bit weird. This is kind of luck, fate, God, whatever. And then the werewolf, it's not even a fight. Like, you don't even really see a fight between the two, which is disappointing. It's just they're on top, of a cliff. D does this, and then the guy's dead. The werewolf is dead. I'm like, well, that's kind of lame. You do get to have him fight a little bit at the end where he... But I don't know if it's because they made Vampire Hunter D so powerful that he's OP. And if that's the case, it just sucks because you don't really get a lot of like cool fights that you like to see from the character. And that's disappointing. I mean, it's a short enough film and when at a good enough pace, I keep harping on the animation or I keep pipping it up because you get like some decent landscapes. There's a point they're riding in the desert and you have this torn up big satellite dish. And the werewolf, when he finally comes into play, and not only does he have a mouth, but his stomach has like a little mouth and it's taking on some of the bounty hunters. Or in the third act, when they get to this more evil bitch Carmilla, this other vampire chick, and she's using illusions that make some of the bounty hunters fooled, but not D. D's like, you suck my D. I ain't falling for this shit, Carmilla. You're a C. You next Tuesday. So suck my D. Okay? Goodbye. And at least there's some decent character moment. I didn't mind this moment where they're in a town and the town's ready to blast D because of who he is, half human, half vampire. And then this old guy comes in and says, no, you don't put your guns down. Okay? You may not remember me, stranger, but a time ago you saved a bunch of kids here, and you know what? I was one of those kids. And I like the way that scene played out, that there's someone worth the shit that actually appreciates what D had done. I thought the ending was kind of nice. Like the way it ended, I don't want to give that away, but I thought it was a nice little heartfelt scene, the way it ended. Like I said, the voice acting, I was fine with it. I've heard much, much worse. So it might bother other people. It didn't bother me that much. Although D, at times he's talking very softly like this. Part of me wishes he would have had like a stronger, impactful voice, or it's like, it's fine, I could deal with it, but I don't know. Just to be honest, he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. I like the design of the creatures and the fact they had different abilities. Again, this whole thing between the one vampire guy and the girl that's been taken but not against her will. Idea where they're going for, where, you know, their love was actually for real. It wasn't trickery. That still doesn't excuse them, you know, wiping out a whole fucking town, turn them into vampires. That's just me, though. Like I said, it's at the very least nice to watch animation-wise. There's a bit at the end where this fight's going on, and this ring is bounced on the floor, and you see it come to the fight. There's this ring bouncing up, and at times it's bouncing. And you know that effect where you have something, and then it's repeated over to show the trajectory? Like there's a wedding ring type, but then you see kind of where it's been. Anyway, it's just a nicely... The best part is the animation. It's a really, I thought, good-looking movie. Like I said, I wish D got into some more knockdown, drag-out fights or longer fights. There's not a whole lot of that in this. Again, the story, a little bit tweaks here and there to it. Maybe be a little bit more bloody would have been cool. Like I said, I do remember more stuff happening in this than the first Vampire Hunter D. I remember that being a little bit boring. And also, I do remember this being a more, like I said, more visually dynamic in its animation compared to the first. So overall, I didn't mind it. I thought it was decent. I thought it was a decent anime. I think if you like stuff like Blade, if you like vampire stuff, if you like anime itself, pretty decent one. It's a pretty decent one. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was alright. That was pretty decent. So, hey, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.